Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gents. So another episode of Fit Beyond 40. It's been a while since we put one out. Very excited today. I've got a young man with me today, the name of Daniel Eggington.
Eggington?
Eggington. Yeah. Who, how do I describe it? Adventurer and explorer.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. That's my aim anyway, to be known as that.
He has done some crazy stuff. I'm excited to go through this and actually find out what makes him tick and what's what made him take this avenue, really. He's only 32 years old, which the stuff he's done at this age already is outstanding. And you've just missed out. You just had a world record attempt last week, didn't you?
I did. It was probably the hardest thing I've done, as in like one session, which was doing a half marathon in the fastest time with a 70 kg rucksack.
That's 70 kilograms, by the way, for those who don't. 70 kilogram rucksack and trying to do a half a marathon, which is 13.4 miles.
Yeah.
That's a hell of it. And what was the standing world record time?
There is none. There is a fella 2 months ago, serving forces. He did a world record, a 55 kg, and he did it in 3 hours and 58 minutes. But I was on record pace, so I was looking to beat that pace. When I finished last week, which I fell short by just a mile because my body just seized up.
Listen, we all know about seizing up. I definitely know about how your body seizes up and you feel helpless, don't you?
Yeah.
Because your body breaks before your mind.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible feeling. But listen, mate, many people wouldn't even think about attempting that. Many people just think, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why don't you just do a half marathon yourself? Why take the 70k bag? What was it all about? Did you want to just test yourself? Or
I think it's exactly that. I think testing myself. I always want to aim for challenges. So I'll say if I'm doing a 10-mile run or a 5-mile run, I want to do it in the best possible time. And I'm saying I can do a half marathon, and people who train can do a half marathon. There's no reason why anyone with 2 legs that won't be able to do a marathon with a set training. So I'm thinking I could do that, but why not make it as hard as possible? And that's the way my brain works with everything.
Yeah, there's something in common here in this room, and I'll tell you, it's not good. He's not good. Luckily, Daniel's single, so he hasn't got a spouse chewing off in his ear telling him this is a bad idea. But hey, fair play to you. It's all about. I've got loads of time for people like Daniel who are just out there breaking boundaries. As you said, he could have easily just done a half a marathon or a full marathon, but no, he wants to do something different. He wants to challenge himself, and I think when you challenge yourself to something that you know you might fail, that's a different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not running down the road with my rucksack with my food in it. I'm running down the road with 70 kg. I've never attempted this before, and I could fail it.
Yeah, and I think it's like a level of obsession. I want to test myself to as much as I can, and I want people to think, there's a saying, these endurance runners do, be uncommon among uncommon people, and that's what I try to do with everything I do, and it's a good thing to challenge yourself with anything.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get onto your mental state and your prep for that. Actually, while we're on there, what was your? I know your prep was 7 weeks training, wasn't it? Before that, What was your food like? Were you practicing what you were eating when you were training?
Yeah. So again, with anything to do training wise, I think discipline comes in, and you've got to do you've got to repeat. I think whatever you're trying to do, be it walking, be it running. There's no point in swimming if you're going to train for a marathon. Running, you've got to replicate that as best as possible. And again, in the sessions or the training, I try to replicate the exact, like every 20 minutes drink as much water as I possibly can. Every hour have some high calorie or high energy food, and that's how I was doing it through the training, like the 7 weeks prior, and that's how I was doing it and on the actual event. So
did you, when you were doing your training, were you doing it at a similar time to the race would be as well? Or
on
working around work
the days, so there was only 2 set rucksack days in the week, so a Thursday and a Sunday, but I'll try to do the pace on the Thursdays, but at a shorter distance, so I'll do 3-4 miles at like 17-minute mile pace or 18-minute mile pace, and then on the Sunday it'll be a lot longer and just in the trenches, so to speak, like 3 hours, 4 hours sessions is what I would be doing on the Sunday afternoon, but a lot slower.
And do you think the leading up to the event, what do you think was the biggest challenge? Was it getting used to having that weight on your back, or was it something else? Was it just doing the distance? Because when was the last time you did a half marathon?
Yeah, exactly. So how I trained for it, I got to like a really good base level fitness running wise, and then I started doing the training for the event. And the hardest thing, I think it was initially getting the bag on my back, to be fair. So I started like 2 weeks. I was doing 55 kilo the first 2 weeks, and then I upped that up to 70 kilos. So it was like 6 weeks of 70 kilo days, and it was like, I think the mind frame when it's like an hour 2 and you're in bits, or there's you got blisters, or your skin on your back's peeling off. You got to be subconsciously thinking about the way you pivot as well with such weight, because if you turn a certain way and your knees go, then you're out of the race anyway. So it's subconsciously shattered, but you still need to have a genuine focus on steps. That's it.
Need to be concentrating all the time. And what about only because of what I recently did, I felt like I had to draw a lot of, during the challenge, you're drawing a lot of inspirational or motivation from different things. So you might be thinking about your family, you might be thinking about the cause, you might be thinking about people who ain't doing so well. There's all these different things, and I, at the end I felt saturated. I felt like I couldn't release any more dopamine to drive me on, because I was done.
I think the family's really close, but they are very unaware of a lot of the things that I do, because there's maybe 2 or 3 people in the family that would be very encouraging. The nephews, my brother, but like parents, it's like more concern, I think, and that just puts, it's a good thing on their part, but it just puts negative doubts, like, why am I doing it? Why are you doing it? But I think there's a fella that I would train with when I was living in the Midlands, and I think he was in the forces, and he had a missing leg, and he'd be the hardest worker in that gym. And he always says, which always resonates with me, if I had 2 legs, I'd be unstoppable. And just a person in that mind frame, I think he should be in places like TED Talks. He was inspirational. And I couldn't even tell you his name. Like, I see him every day and I chat to him, but he was just a machine. The way he was.
That's quite an inspirational fella there. So what did you personally use to drive you on for that? Because you got to 12 miles.
Yeah.
And then how long did that take you to get to?
That took me 3 hours and 45 minutes.
So that's not easy. So you nearly had 4 hours of going for the gruel. What were you thinking in your head at times? Did you hit the wall? What did you use to drive you on through that wall?
I think I'm a very basic person. I think I'll just repeat a certain word, and that's how I just wouldn't think about things. If it's raining or it's sunny, I say it's bloody too hot, it's too hot, it's too hot. Well, that's how I just think. And on mile 9, between mile 8 and 9, it was just a mile uphill, and I never checked the ground, like the trail, which I should have. But the moment I started putting music on, and it was just one step after another, but it was just literally repeating the same word. So I'm not thinking about my legs or my back, and it would hurt to begin with, bottom of my legs for the first 3 miles, then that would sort itself out. Then my shoulders for the next 3 miles would hurt, and then after the shoulders, like one part of my back would just hurt. So my body kind of, then we'll give this pain now, and then we'll kind of substitute it later on. So I don't know if that's a survival thing, but that's how my body reacted.
That's crazy. So you might be thinking, what is Daniel doing? He sounds absolutely nuts. But I can tell you, this isn't the first thing he's done, which sounds absolutely crazy. So let's go back to the first thing you did, and what drove you to do something like this? Instead of most people probably hit a team sport or a gym and kind of get their kicks that way, you wanted something else. There was something else driving you. What was it?
I think as a kid, we always boxed. So there was always like a physical thing that we wanted to do. I'd be outdoors till 9-10 o'clock. From 5 years old, I'd explore 4 houses up that way, as in gardens, and I'd get a bit more brave, and I'd do a 5 or 6. And I have memories from a kid, 5 to 10, exploring crazy, like we found like gravestones and all sorts in gardens when I was a kid. And then I think that instilled me as like, I want to do something adventurous or outdoors, something unique, and that led to me. I mean, I have an interest in wildlife and the outdoors anyway, and I got a job. My first ever job, the best ever job I've had, was a local zoo to me in the Midlands, and that was, I probably worked there 7 months, 8 months, and a tax back of 800 quid, and as a 17-year-old, I thought I was loaded. First thing I did...
You do £700 a lot of money when you're 17.
Yeah, the first thing I did was literally buy a flight to Southeast Asia, Sumatra. Never been that part of the world. None of my family had any idea about that part of the world, so I rocked up there in Sumatra. Was
that just randomly pick a place?
Because of wildlife, the wildlife, jungles, orangutans, tigers, rhinos, and I thought, I'm going to do that. 500 quid. Bearing in mind I only had 800 quid, so it was flying out the following next 2 weeks, and I told my family I had like £1,000, so they was less stressed. I turned up, and I was probably the biggest rookie error I ever made. So I turned up dressed as if I was going straight into the jungle. I had like old para boots on, combat colour gear.
Chris Pac-Man.
Yeah,
really wild show. Yeah,
and, like just literally looked like a soldier. First thing they did, you're my enemy, and they thought I was a soldier. This is because there's so many religions there, and straight away off the bounce in the airport, a 17-year-old kid. I was approached. They took my bag off me, checked me. I'm like, no, I'm British. I've just come to explore. 6 hours, 7 hours in the airport, being stressed by some marcher and some Indonesian border guard. Then I realised I was just a daft kid. Left me to have my holiday. I was there probably 3 weeks in Sumatra with 200 quid. First thing I did, caught a taxi more north. Ended up in a little rice field, and I asked some local guy to take me out into the jungle. I was like, okay, so it's like 5 quid a day. And I remember their names now, Wanda, Bendy and Ping. And the three of them took me out to the jungle. And I was 18, my 18th birthday, turned up in the middle of the Sumatran jungle, looking at tigers the night before.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's instilled me, I think, for how can I make this an income or a living?
Yeah. That just ignited the fire that was already there from the kid, yeah. Wow. And then, so your next journey onwards, you've had a few.
I have. So forever planning other trips. Ended up going to Costa Rica, camping out in the jungles when I was like 21. Taking pictures, trying to be a photographer, a wildlife photographer. I mean, I did enjoy it, but I didn't sell any pictures, let's put it that way. Yeah.
But the experience, you must have gained from that.
It was like in the middle of the jungle, a trail called the Toricipello, which is a venomous snake, so that's very interesting. Let's try and go up Toricipello, and that's for the people that know, Ferdinand snake, one of the most dangerous snakes in Latin America, and that was this trail that was named. So I was like, yeah, that sounds a bit dodgy. Let's check that out. So I went and camped up that trail for 4 or 5 days.
But most people would hear that name and turn around. That's the bit when you go, the most venomous snake. I think I'm going back now. Find somewhere safer.
That's one of the another penultimate part of my life. Latin America. First time I went to Latin America, and it just, like I say, I've held on to Latin America, and since then I've been to extreme places in Latin America, from Venezuela, Guyana, Colombia. The next big trip, it was a canoe trip, which was 2017, 2018. I started to take travel seriously and trying to really stop being so foolhardy, risk assess it.
Okay.
So bear in mind that's 2010 right up to 2017, but in between then I'd go to Colombia, do a little check out that country. But the Guyana was an expedition that I planned, and it was a canoe trip from a town called Apoteri, which took forever to get to. And then again I started looking around the jungle, the tribal villages, saying, can anyone guide me, or can I buy a boat? I ended up buying a boat made out of Angelica wood, if I remember right, and it was a dugout canoe which was older than me, and I ended up looking for a guide, and I ended up paying him 50 quid a day, worked out to, for 12-13 days canoeing down the Essequibo River in Guyana. And the belief system and the stuff that I learned on that big trip, again, that was probably the first successful expedition that I did, because I'd gone out, I'd meet people, and I did it a very much more professional manner. Got in touch with people, got permits and permissions.
So the planning was better, rather than just turning up and doing what you want to do. You know, you had a goal, you had a fix of what you wanted to achieve. You did it. Yeah,
and the stuff I learned. I was with 2 guys, and I still speak to them now, Campbell and James. It was a son and a father team guide, and they was Wapichana. That was their tribe. And the stuff they asked me on the river, the son asked me if dinosaurs still existed, and this is how way back out of society they are. And the dad asked me if polar bears lived in the UK. This is like the knowledge the kid had, Campbell. He was like, dinosaurs still exist, no? And he got that knowledge from a 1980s magazine, National Geographic magazine, and he just had fossils, and he was just curious about dinosaurs, and he asked me if dinosaurs still existed. And that's, like I say, that's so how far removed they are from society. So
they're obviously a self-sustained tribe, still in Guyana.
Yeah, bow and arrows, still hunt off the land, still believe in very, as in like, we like very ritualistic, shamanistic belief system, believe jaguars are gods.
So they use it, is it the Mother Earth type stuff? Very much.
Very spiritual.
Respecting the earth from where you are, the ground.
And, just little things that he would do. He'd jump in the water and he'd drink the water before he'd try and swim in the water, and that's just a sign of respect. And that's how they did it, and I learned so much from them, from the wildlife side of things and the tribal side of things, and yeah, that was a major success.
Mate, that sounds absolutely amazing, mate.
Big
Spend
success.
time with that. Not a lot of people in their lifetime,
No,
that I'll speak to have had that kind of experience. So did that trip being more professional, you getting loads out of it, did that ignite a different type of fire and you wanted to go down more of a professional route of exploring?
Yeah, so that would be, like I say, a catalyst to what else can I plan. This went very well, super successful, and it built I had a blueprint to make an expedition successful, like a solo expedition, reach out to local knowledge, and then that led to other areas. So again, Latin America drawed me in, and I'm thinking, what's the most out there country in Latin America? People say straight away Colombia, so much cartels, the drugs. I'm thinking Colombia is a difficult country to travel. How can I make that more difficult or more interesting or more complex? So I said to myself, we'll go to the Darien Gap. And the Darien Gap, for people that don't know, it's a lawless jungle, one of the worst jungles on the planet. I mean, you Google it, and the first 100 outlines are like the most dangerous jungle, the most dangerous border crossing in the world. It's a lot in the news lately. A lot of migrants, a lot of crazy things happening to the migrants.
So that's on the Colombian border to...
The Colombian-Panama border.
Okay, Colombian-Panama
it's in northern. And there's a number of people that have done successful expeditions there coming from north, from Panama to Colombia. And that was the original plan. And on the eastern side, and could I do that? I went to Panama, done some background checks on people, looked up local people, and it was no one wanted to help you. The centre front took your passport off you, and they give it you back when you're going north, when you're getting back to civilization. Wow. They wouldn't let you. So I'm thinking, that was my first trip planning that. I thought, let's try and do it the other way. Colombia's a bit more lawless, a bit more cowboy-y. So I did it, went to the Colombia side, and no one had crossed or documented a crossing from south to north. A lot of people on the east side are doing the Caribbean crossing, that's the migrant side of things. Well, if you want to do that and you want to get involved with the cartels, then it's a possibility. So I'm thinking the west side. So it took 5 trips to the embassy in London, to Colombia itself, to double check people.
Yeah, so were you going back and forth as well? So obviously you can't do a lot of stuff from here.
Nah, so I did 5 trips originally to Colombia to do like checks and background and double check people, and I did 4 trips to Panama for the end goal. Okay, it's trustworthy, people look out for me when I'm there. And it failed on 2 occasions because the military took my passport off me in Colombia, and the second time it failed was because you could literally hear all the fighting and the people shooting at each other in the jungle. And that was between, at the time it would have been the ELN, which is the Ejército Liberación Nacional, which is just a freedom army, national freedom army of Colombia, and the Gulf Clan. And so I was like, I mean, I am foolhardy, but I don't want to be walking into an actual war zone. So I was like, that failed the second time. So 2022, I went back and I hid from the military this time. Connected with the people that have helped me previously or was constantly communicating with, and I was like, can we do this? Like, no, it's too dangerous, still fighting going on. And at this time, the first and second time, the ELN was in charge, and I got contact with the ELN, the militia, and they gave them permission to an extent. And then when I got there in 2022, the Gulf Clan was in charge, so they had
switched.
Yeah, so they've got rid of the ELN, who I'd spoken to for the last 4 years previously. And my contact had been killed by the Colombian military within 4 days of communicating with him. And then I had to then get permission off the clan, the Gulf Clan. The second time, I'm thinking about 400 or 500 quid. No, they put £1,500 bounty, like, you need to pay us 1,500 quid.
If you want to make that crossing.
Yeah. And I met them.
And also, I know you said that they gave you permission.
Yeah.
Is that like a written? Is that like? It might be a stupid question, but is that like a written slip or just a verbal? Because
there's so many. It's like an actual military. Like, it's a very organised group, and they have like their regiments, they have their regions, and it was from the top. Really, it did come down to the bottom, and the bottom who was in charge there, they couldn't really argue because they would have put themselves at danger. Okay. And yeah, so they gave me some rules. Like, don't use your drone because there's people working in the area. I'm like, yes, I'd. So that was literally no issue.
Whatever you tell me, I'll do. Yeah. So literally, it was a verbal. Yeah. It was a verbal acceptance, if you like, an agreement. Yeah. And then they'd have to pass that down. Yeah. Because I'm guessing if you went into a territory where the leader weren't there that you'd agreed with,
then you'd nab me. Yeah, they would have.
Blaming hell, mate. Yeah, this sounds. Yeah. Yeah, this sounds feisty, doesn't it? So you went back and forth.
Yeah.
So it took you, what, 5 or 6
Yeah, 5 years, literally 5 years planning.
5 years?
Yeah, from 2018 to 2019, 2022, so what, 4 years?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big commitment, just the planning itself.
I was dreaming about it. It was just a took over my life. I watched every documentary, I read every single book about the place. But yeah, it just took over.
Wow, I can imagine that. And I know you've got some stuff coming up next year, but we'll get to that later. What do you think your hardest, as in the most difficult expedition out of this country has been for various reasons? Would that be the Columbian? Just because it took so long.
Yeah, the Darien Gap. And the sheer physical requirement. I was training in the peaks and the Brecons, doing 8 miles a day with my 25 kilo ruck, like what I was needing when I'm out there. I got there, got a local guy, and from the day one, it was 15-mile days he was doing. I was in bits. My muscles in my legs were spasming. I lost skin on my back, toenails. It just rained every single day. So it did take 5 days originally. And it was hard. And the first 2 days, great conversation with the guide. Within day 2, he's like, I'm going home now. I said, what do you mean? So he had to leave and go back. So I was in the Columbian Darien Gap on my own for 2 days because he would have got nap-breasted when he got over to Panama because of smuggling. So I was in the jungle on my own, lost. And like I say, I got videos, talk to myself, a storm. Literally, you can count distance between lightning strikes and thunderbolt like sounds. It was both of them together, so the storm was right on top of me, half a mile away probably, and it was just vibrating. All the trees were falling down in my camp, and that was the scariest part, I think, and the most physically, mentally demanding, because I literally just curl up in my hammock saying, I'm going to die, because the trees were falling, and like I say, it's the biggest. The cartels and stuff, you could kind of put that to the back of your mind, because if it all worked out, I had permission. Snakes, you can have a knowledge of snakes and the spiders, but a falling tree, there's not a thing you can do to mitigate that.
Nature's weather, you can't control that at all, can you? So, man, I'm just trying to imagine what that would be like in the middle of a jungle on your own. So, did he come back, or did you?
No, he just hit the road. I couldn't really be sarcastic with him because he probably would have reacted a very different way, because he worked for the groups.
Yeah,
as well.
Okay.
So what he said, I was like joking. I've got, like I say, videos. Do you want to say bye to the camera? Like, I'm quite jokey with him, and I thought he was joking with me at the time. But within this time, we'd seen human skeletons. We picked up an ID as well, which people have tried to go through. So, like you say, it's real there. And whatever he said, I'm like, yeah, sound okay. He gave me some very basic directions. Bottom of the hill, turn right. Follow the river, and
like you're in London somewhere. It's bottom of that hill, mate.
Yeah, and like I say, I followed the guidance, got down like 3-4 hours down the hill, and I followed the river, tiny little stream. It weren't the river what I was aiming for, so I'd gone wrong somewhere, and it was like literally a day and a half just ambling in the jungle, no clue, no idea where it was, until I found it like a big river. Then I followed that for another day, and then I found a little small community. And
what were you doing about the language barrier? Because are you fluent in Spanish?
Yeah,
you speak Spanish. Okay. That makes things a lot easier.
And I learned Spanish through the travelling. I mean, I can have a conversation, and I try to, like I say, every single day I'd get half an hour of it, just to keep it at the level that I'm at.
Okay.
But like I say, in that part of the world, it's very tribal as well. So they speak tribal languages, their traditional languages, which no matter how many years I lived on this planet, I don't think I'm picking that up. Yeah, but yeah, Spanish can get by on Spanish. And I'm glad it worked out in 2022, because the years previous, I don't think I'd been able to communicate, to be honest.
Okay, so maybe there's a reason for it being delayed that amount of time. That brings me on to some of your sponsors. I was talking to Daniel about some of his sponsors on his shirt today, and NGS, they're a rescue company, aren't they?
Yeah. So Northcott Global, they support the last trip what I did, which was this year, which I can go into a bit, but they're a search and rescue organisation, so they'll track you, they'll have security reports, you'll have security briefings, and it's just security checking. So it's a very military process, which is, again, it's fail safe really. It's like every 20 minutes we'll check you, but every 4 hours check in, we also have a conversation, which satellite phone, GPS, two-way comms, and yeah, so they're bang on, and they're still on board, and they will be going forward
for your next expeditions and stuff. And is that mentally, that must be quite comforting
Yeah.
a little bit, just to know that you, even though you're alone,
Yeah.
there is someone maybe who knows where you are, or roughly knows where you are.
I think it's a thing that's needed, especially in certain places like Colombia, Brazil. But I think the family, when I've explained it to them, I think that just makes them breathe a little bit easier. Yeah. Because, like I say, the Colombia trip, I didn't speak to no one for like 8 days, 9 days, and they got the embassy involved. The embassy was putting things in place to rescue me, but this was prior to these on board. But yeah, until so it just gives a family.
It just gives you a context of what kind of background resources are needed, really, for just even at what you would consider a small expedition. The kind of the logistics around it are huge.
Yeah. It's just there's certain little things, and I've never been in the military. I spent a bit of time training and stuff alongside them, but I've never served in the forces. But when you sit down with a person that's had 15 years in the military, search and rescue, and it just their little nuggets of information or their little bits of knowledge, because they've been in like hostile environments, the level of like the way you learn from people that have done that for the last 15, 20 years, it's brilliant. And like I say,
yeah. And going back to some other sponsors, bear with me 2 seconds, because I've got to go read this back.
Yeah.
So we've got, you talked about space, was it?
Yeah,
Space talk?
Space. I spent the last couple of years, again, ex-forces guys that run that organisation, and we'll do a lot of hill stuff up in the hills in the UK. So we'll take people regards mental health, and it's a lot of forces or
so you're talking about PTSD, people suffering with that kind of stuff. Yeah,
people with depression, PTSD for the crazy stuff that they would have seen, and we'd go up the hills in the UK and we'd just do like a hard session for Afghan refugees, for example, or people that are a bit older who have experienced that, and it's more of a relaxing kind of session, just well-being really, just and they'll put like train psychologists on the walk with us, and it's 3 guys that run it who are all ex-forces themselves and also trained in mental health. So it's like a walk, which I'll be doing the walking and they'll be doing the therapy side of things.
So it's almost like a walk and talk, almost like a retreat. So would people book on it for a weekend or a couple of days?
Yeah, weekend. So there's very different versions of accommodation. So we'll have like a bunkhouse, or we'll have like a nice Airbnb, a nice little cottage up there. But it varies, and I enjoy it, and they know their stuff as well, and they love the outdoors.
Well, mental health is such a big thing, and I talk about it all the time. That I love hearing about new little not businesses, sort of collectives, initiatives and collectives that people think of, because it's so, people just think of some amazing things really of how they can incur and help people, and going up to the hills for a couple of days with some ex-forces people, with some therapists as well, and then turn it into a retreat is a great idea.
It's so successful as well, and you can see like people have set goals after it as well. I want to do Snowdon and spread some ashes or whatever because of my family loved it up there. And prior to a session up in up north with space, they wouldn't imagine that, but we'd do a few things, little training walks, little nav walks, fitness stuff, and they'd be up the hill, up Snowdon, releasing some ashes within the next 2-3 weeks because they realise they've set a goal and they actually can do it. Why can't I do it?
Sometimes it's easy to get bogged down, and make your mind can be such a brilliant thing, but can also be such a destructive thing as well. So when it is destructive, it almost seems like it's got more power than when it's good. Someone gives you a compliment, you're like, whatever. When someone says something negative, it sits with you. It can sit with you, depending on the person, for such a long time, just eating away. So it's great hearing about these sort of things. And we've also got Hennessy Hammock.
Hennessy, I've worked with them for years. They've always provided the best hammock, especially jungle environments. You can't fault Hennessy at all.
Okay. So they specifically just sell hammocks?
Hammocks, very dedicated to tropical environments, mosquito net, tarps. I think, in my opinion, they're the best hammock you can get.
Okay. And obviously you've used them.
And
beat the hostile environment.
I've got a few of them. Can't fault them.
Liquid logistics.
So liquid logistics. That was to do with the last trip. I done a bit of canoe training, kayaking training with them, just to get myself refamiliarised with the physics of doing it. So it was a day course just down south with them, making sure I can paddle a canoe still. I think as you turned more professional, as you say, your preparation
it's probably key,
Yeah.
isn't it, to everything?
Yeah.
I'm guessing. And if
Yeah.
you were going back down that river and going on, you
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
just want to double check your canoe skills, especially
Yeah.
with the language barrier. If you're working
Yeah.
with tribes as well, that isn't there.
100%.
I think that's it, isn't it? Oh, hostile training.
Oh.
So hostile training, HET. I quite
Yeah.
like this one.
Yeah, hostile environment training. This was in regards to the Columbia Darien in 2022. There was a bit of spike in kidnapping in that part of the world. So it was a big focus on the kidnap and the trauma side of things. So it would be familiarization with weapons, how to conduct yourself in a kidnap kind of situation, and the way they put you through it's brutal, to be fair. So it's like they'll give you loads of little nuggets of information. Ex special forces run it, or intelligence services, and they'll do like 2 days of tidbits of information, trauma, first aid, and then they'll do like a kidnap behavior, and they'll just take you in a role play scenario, but doesn't feel like role play, and they just bashed you up. They threw you around, tied you up, balaclava you, and they did their background checks on you as well.
Yeah.
So they'll come to me with a gun, which like would fire blanks, or it would be the sound of a gun. And they'll be like, I know your niece's, I know your nephew's name. And they'll tell my nephew's and niece's name, and they'll say horrible things about my niece. Just so you'd kind of understand how it would work. And the stuff, the knowledge that they picked up, open source intelligence, or they literally still get nabbed. They're still in MI5's building and try and background check it. But I don't know. But they get their information, and they bring they'll piddle on you. Just do mad things, and they bring a pretty lady in as well at one point, and she was apologising, and you didn't give her the information, and she'd give you a smack.
Yeah, that sounds very much like escape and evade within the forces, when you're on the run for an X amount of time, and then when they find you, they find out stuff about your family. They're trying to interrogate you. They try and break you down with smells of food as well, different types of foods, because they know you haven't eaten for a while. That does not sound enjoyable. Did you pay for that?
We got chatting, and they said, we'll get you on board. So it was like over 5 days it was, and
fair play to them.
And I still speak to the fella that runs it as well now. But yeah, it's brilliant. A lot of journalists, a lot of NATO guys do it. So it was a big push when Ukraine obviously was happening, all the crazy stuff that's happening in the world at the minute. But yeah,
brilliant. So now we talk about. So you've had this world record attempt just recently, and you are still recovering. You are still quite sore. Your legs are still sore, but I already know that you've got something else in the bag coming up, possibly at the end of this year or beginning of next year. What's next?
So the next plan, which I'm working towards now, so I'll be in January, February, March next year. I'll be away in Sweden doing some Arctic training with an organisation called Jadat, if I've got that right pronunciation wise. And again, it's to ex-Marines, I think the ones still in the reserves, and there's like a training pipeline for Arctic cold weather training, and I'll need that for the next expedition. So it's very detailed and very ran very military, which is what is needed for this sort of expedition. But yeah, and that's in prep for the big trip at the end of next year, which is the far east of Russia, in Siberia. So I'll be out in Siberia, -70.
Sounds very cold.
Yeah, -70. So they have dropped to -80, and it's not uncommon. They've said -70. So I'm doing that to prep and plan for that big expedition. And the aim of that is to follow a river called the Lena River, and that's from Lake Baikal all the way up north to the Arctic Ocean, far east Russia.
Wow. And what did you want to get out of that expedition? So what's the main aim for that one?
I think there's a lot of unknowns, I think, with that part of the world, and they're still very I'd like to say shamanistic tokenism, a lot of tokenism. They still believe in a deity called Kazari Azari. So I'm going out there to do the physical expedition, because it will be a world first, documented, and to try and see if people, have a chat with people, if that still is like a belief system out there, which it is to my knowledge, but I'd like to speak to the people that still believe in a religion that's 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 plus years old, and they're still doing a lot of rituals and all that sort of stuff. But there's also little things out there, unnamed mountain peaks, which I'm going to try and climb as well. It's not a big peak in regards to peaks. It's like 3,000 meters, but it's just unnamed, and
still big.
Yeah.
Still big.
And in the dead of winter as well, because this trip would have to be done in winter, because in the summer it's just like a big swamp out there. So yeah, it was just frozen, and the frozen lake is like 20, 25 meters frozen solid down.
Wow.
So I've got to prep for that.
So what apart from the I'm just trying to digest everything you've just said there. So apart from the weather, which is obviously in the climate, which is going to be a huge aspect to training around, especially as you said, you can't even get clothes in the UK for temperatures of -70. You have to go to specialist places abroad to get those kind of clothes. Apart from the climate, what do you think is going to be the other challenges? Is the terrain is it quite mountainous, quite terrainy?
Yeah, so it's a valley. It's a valley, and it's quite a deep canyon as far as canyons go. So I hope there's not many hills, but I've looked at the best maps that I can. It looks flat in parts, but there will be a lot of at points there'll be peaks that I will have to climb and get over and get into the valley again, because I won't be able to follow the river entirely. I have to circle around. But yeah, the dangers geographically. I mean, you think of the wildlife. You've got wolves, polar bears, grizzly bears, and of course the geopolitical side of things. What's going on in the world these days, which is I've got to consider.
So will you need special permission to try and take on that expedition?
Yeah, so I've got a fella out there, originally UK, moved over there years back, married a Russian lady. So he's got a business over there, and he's done a lot of takes a lot of like all National Geographic, all the nature programs. So he's sort of sponsoring it, as in like he can vouch for me in regard. I've spoken to the Russian embassy, and they're like, there shouldn't be no issues. I've got no links to military and all that sort of stuff. But of course, permissions will be sought, and hopefully I'll go to Russia beforehand to meet who I need to meet, and to get hold of some of the decent clothing as well.
Yeah.
Like I say, but yeah, there's a lot of the amount of variables to an expedition alone. But then in Russia, I think it's just going to add an extra level, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that is the plan for next winter, so November time, is it next year?
Yeah.
It seems like a long way away, but when you're planning something like that, a year is not a long time, is it?
Nah, and then you think I've got a 12-month plan of everything, language plan as well, so I need to get to my Russian to a conversant level. People have said it's possible. I've started now. It doesn't seem possible right now, but I think it'll be a funny video at the end.
The effort's there though, isn't it? The effort's there. You're trying to make it.
So I think that'll be a really big challenge. Yeah, the language barrier, but I've got 12 months minimum.
And will there be anything sneaking up before that you kind of sandwich in between the 12 months, or are you going to totally dedicate yourself just to that?
In like I said, Jan, Feb, March, I'll be.
I knew there'd be something.
Jan, Feb, March, I'll be in the Arctic training for it. But in end of March, we're out in Pakistan. Well, I'm out in Pakistan with a group of fellas like mountain walkers, and we're out trying to find the Hunza tribe. It's supposedly the longest living group of people in the world. Okay. And it's up in the mountains of northern Pakistan, so that'll be like a 2-week trip, I think, and I'll be just leading a little expedition.
So hold on. How did you come up with that one? Like, what was the desire to go to Pakistan and look for the Hamza tribe? What is it? Is that just someone that just mentioned it to you? Had you read about it? Had you seen it on TV?
I was approached when I was in Brazil this year. So someone reached out to me saying they want to get into adventure filmmaking, adventure videography, and do you want to come to Pakistan? I'm like, yeah.
Oh, so someone presented the idea to you?
Okay. For you, because you do the outdoors, you navigate, you can get up and down the mountains. I'm like, I'm happy that because I'm said, yeah, no problem. It don't take very much to convince me to go travelling anyway, really. I'm like, Pakistan, quite a unique place, quite a place that not many people travel to. Again, stereotypes which are in the mainstream media, and I need experiences. You need to form your own experiences. So I was like, yeah, sod it, we'll go out there. There's a group of 4. And a Pakistani lad local to us. He's got quite a few connections. I've got people in the military who work in Pakistan who I've worked with before within the UK, and they've got family out there and all that. So hopefully it will work out well, and we can get a hold of the 100.
Wow! So that is that's next March.
Yeah,
time.
End of March.
And that's obviously going to be documented for the documentary they're making.
Yeah. So and it's literally all the camera gear is probably going to be bigger than my rucksack, to be fair, because there's a lot of stuff, and that's again the creative side of things. It's like a foreign language to me. It's a brilliant skill, but I'm clueless to it. But it'd be documented fully, and I think it'd be a wicked trip, to be honest.
Well, it sounds, but all of it sounds absolutely amazing, even Siberia. But what drives you? Because at the moment you haven't got any family, have you?
No.
So you are free to get up and go wherever you want to go. So what drives you? I mean, like when you said the Siberia thing and that was in your head, does it just literally take someone to come up and go, hey, do you want to go and find another tribe just to sandwich that in there, or was it you just wanting that more and more?
Yeah, I think in the world there's crazy expeditions, trips, which you've got to give respect for. Mount Everest expeditions, people golfing down the Amazon River. You can't take nothing away from them, but there's a blueprint to them. So if I had 50 grand, I could go to Mount Everest. I could pay someone to get me to Mount Everest, and you can't. It's a physical feat in a sense, of course it is, and it's a dream for hundreds and hundreds of people. But I think if there's a blueprint to it, it doesn't really drive me. I want to be the first. I want to be the trailblazer. I want to challenge myself, and I'm not scared of failing. I think, and failing is just a way to learn.
100%. Well, you only grow through those times.
Yeah, so. With everything, work-wise, personal life. Yeah. If you set your mind to a 5 mile run or a couch to 5k, if you feel bad week 2, so what? Week 3's coming. Just keep doing that, and that's how I think. That's how I think everyone should live life. Like, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Set yourself goals, big goals, small goals. My goal's completely different to yours. That might be a major goal for you. That's great, but just set a goal and aim for it. But again, just the also drivers, like the craziness of it is also a drive, I think.
Is that the adrenaline junkie in you?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't do bungee jumping though. I've been asked to do bungee jumping, and adrenaline. I think bungee jumping scares me more than a jungle.
Going to a crazy country which is under attack with its own militia. Mate, that is insane. So what about, when you are on youth expeditions, mentally they can be tough, and we talk, as I said, about mental health quite a lot here. How do you overcome, because not every day is going to be a good day. No. So surely, if something happens, like you said, your guide left you, you're on your own. How do you deal with those moments, those unexpected moments? How do you deal with them in your head? Because you've got no support network out there. You're on your own. You haven't got a friend you can call up. You haven't got your neighbour or somebody you can go and have a drink with or a bite to eat with. You're literally isolated on your own. How do you cope?
I think it's dealing with the now. I think that's the best way. There's lots of ways, like, what can I control now? If you can't control something, you can't control a rushing river. You've got to control the now. What can you do now? Can you sit down and have 20 minutes and then rethink of a plan? Can you hang back a day? Can you wait for the conditions to be more favourable, or when to? Because your mind changes, like you say, it goes ups and downs. You've got to I think you've just got to take time to logic, like critically think about things. I think that's what gets me through. Because, like I say, I've been lost in jungles. I've been had disagreements with cartels. I've been lost. God forbid, I've never been injured in the jungle, but I've had very many near-death experiences in the tropics, in the expedition. But I think it's, you're okay now, let's just relax for a bit. I think it's just dealing with it step by step. There's like a word, I think it was Ant Middleton, I think, the SAS Who Dares Wins guy, again, qualified ex-Special Forces. He did, like, the way he explained it, a fear bubble. You can think, like, right now, what can you control right now? Can you control it? I think controlling now, I think that's a big way that I control the negatives. I think
that's a really important point. I think we lots of us can get intertwined and divulge with the things that we can't control, and they're easily come into your brain and take you over. If you just take a minute or two and just rethink or reanalyze, like you said, take a few breaths, and sometimes don't make good decisions on emotions. And when we panic, sometimes the emotions that we want aren't the ones that we want to make a good decision. So maybe just take your time, have a few breaths, have a sit down, and then rethink again, and hopefully think of something a bit more logically and make a clearer plan. It's not the end of the world, hopefully. So it's a great bit of advice there. Only think about what you can control. It's really good. Yeah. Any other tips for any budding explorers out there? If you've got any people who aren't on the level of obviously going straight to what you're doing, but are really interested in what you've been talking about today, have found it really, and I have, to be fair, want to take their first step into kind of unknown and want to go somewhere, what would you advise them? I
think set the goal and step like a timeline how you get there. Be in the UK.
So have a plan.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Yeah.
It's like, say, I don't know, Brecon, Snowdon, or Yorkshire 3 Peaks, or the National 3 Peaks, or a 5 mile run. If you set an achievable goal, like today's now, by next week I want to be able to do 2 miles every other day. the same. And following that, you got to set a plan. And a few years back, I didn't like a schedule. I was like, sod it, I'm not interested in schedules. But now I need to know what's going on. And that's with day-to-day life. And I think that's a very good way to organise your life, or organise or plan for a goal. It's identify the goal, what you want, and there's loads of little steps that you can take. Not 100 miles an hour at one go. 5% now, 5% tomorrow, 5% the following day, 5%. It'll all add up to 100%. Yeah. And I think set a goal and identify small, smart goals is all I would say, to get to that point. And once you, like say, you've succeeded in a goal that you've always wanted to do, then you'll set another goal, and that'll just translate into every aspect of your life, I think.
Yeah, that's a great bit of advice there. Obviously, I'm going to be sharing Daniel's page with this podcast, so if you want to follow him and you're intrigued by all the things he said, I could listen to him all day, to be honest with you. Then please follow him, jump on his bandwagon, have a look. He's going to be appearing at certain places this year, and you're going to be making a few appearances, and you can also keep a log of his diary, of his training diary, see how he's going. And hopefully he can come back next year before he does. Well, after the Pakistan thing would be great. Yeah, so before you shoot off to Siberia and Russia, it'd be great to hear how your training's going along, if you managed to find the Hamza tribe, and how it went, really.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming on, Daniel. Really appreciate it, mate.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.